Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. So today I want to talk about Candace, Don and Grandis, and just which one of the three Stooges is most likely to be responsible for the disappearance of SummerWells. So guys, 6 long months have now passed since SummerWells vanished. What I want to give you my thoughts on today, guys, is which one out of Don, Candace and Grandis is most likely to be responsible or involved in some way. Now, I could just wrap up my video now and say that all three of them are pretty dodgy. All three of them regularly raise red flags for me. Red flags are always flying for Don, for Candace and for Grandis. Don't forget Grandis. I must admit, my little red flag, I'm surprised it's not given up the ghost, killed over and died because of the amount of times that I've used it for all three of the Stooges. I'm quite surprised that I haven't developed repetitive strain injury from waving that little flag so many times. I have to say straight off the back that Candace, to me, out of all three of them, is most likely to be responsible for Summer's disappearance. But just because Candace looks the most guilty, that doesn't mean that Don and Grandis are not involved. I imagine all three of them have guilty knowledge, and from the way that Summer's grandma disappeared just like Summer, so soon after Summer vanished, I've always found her highly suspicious. Now, perhaps there was an accident that was covered up, maybe Grandis is a part of it, or maybe she didn't really help too much with the cover-up, she's just kept quiet for Candace. But horribly, what I mean by that is perhaps Grandis wasn't involved in any disposing of a body. Now, I'm sorry to suggest such horrible things, but we all have to be realistic here. It's highly unlikely, in my opinion, and as always, guys, as I always say, it is just my opinion, but to me, it's highly unlikely that SummerWells is still alive. Now, I do have faith and I do live in hope that I'm wrong. I really hope that I'm wrong, and I really hope there wasn't a tragic accident that was covered up. But the fact that Summer still hasn't been found, the fact that there's no trace of the little girl, really concerns me after all these months. And I have been wondering whether the TBI and the police in Tennessee do have people that they're interested in, do potentially have suspects, but perhaps they're waiting to find a body. Now, again, guys, I know that's not a nice thought and I don't mean to be morbid, but as I said before, we need to be realistic here. It's highly unlikely that Summer is going to be found alive. Even if Summer was abducted by a stranger or someone she knew, it's very unlikely that she'd still be alive if she was abducted. Now, that's not saying she definitely isn't alive, because people have been abducted and held hostage by their abductor for 18 years. Some people 8 years, some people more than 10 years. But it is quite rare for someone to abduct someone and keep them prisoner for that many years. I really hope that isn't what happened to Summer. I hope that she's not being held by some horrible predator. I really hope and pray that's not the case. I have often sat and wondered, could a friend or family member be hiding Summer? Maybe this is a big ploy to get money. And obviously that would be the best case scenario, because it would mean that Summer is still alive. Going back to the beginning of all of this, of Summer's disappearance, I always found Candace very dodgy. Her relationship with Hunter concerned me from the start. Why is a woman in her late 30s hanging out with a teenage boy? Now, if Summer's brothers had been there that day with Hunter, Grandis and Summer, it would have made a bit more sense to me, because Summer's brothers were a lot closer in age to Hunter than Candace. I did wonder when I first heard about Summer's disappearance, could Hunter have been used to be part of Candace's alibi? Now, obviously, we can't rule out that Hunter was involved, but personally, I don't think he was. But maybe he does have some sort of guilty knowledge, and maybe Candace has told him to shut up. Now, I really hope that's not true, because that's an awful thing for a teenage boy to have to deal with. But let's face it, why did Candace go to his house the day after Summer vanished to ask him just what he told the police? I've always found that highly suspicious, and then let's not forget the text that Hunter claims to have found deleted on Candace's phone. The text that apparently was from her drug dealer that had been deleted on her phone, but he managed to find it, that said, "It's done." Just what did that text mean? I've been wondering that for months. I did wonder when I first saw that interview with Hunter and Chris McDonough from the interview room, maybe "it's done" meant that Summer's body had been gotten rid of. Again, guys, I know that's not nice. I know some of my thoughts are quite dark and morbid, but they're my thoughts and I can't help the way that I feel. I don't mean to upset anybody by being so blunt, but I want to be as honest with you as I can, and I want to tell you what I really think about what happened to Summer. And then there's the whole discrepancy of, was Don at work or wasn't he at work? Did the boys go to work with Don or didn't they? Was there a game of hide and seek between Summer and her brothers? Were flowers really planted in the garden? I doubt it. There have been just so many red flags in this case, I really have lost count of how many times my little red flag has waved for Don, for Candace, and for Grandis. They certainly are three rather strange characters. We've all realised over the past 6 months that Don and Candace's relationship is extremely toxic. I do wonder why they stay together, because they're clearly not happy being together. Now let's talk about Grandis for a minute, because apparently she is back at 110 Ben Hill Road, back living in her trailer. And is she back covering for Candace? Is she still keeping her mouth shut? Could Grandis have been sleeping when Summer disappeared? Let's face it, we all know that she went to the hospital because she had a bad knee. In my opinion, she probably needed to have a bit of a rest after being out all day. So could it be that Grandis actually knows nothing about what happened to Summer? And could Candace somehow have covered this all up without her mum's knowledge? I have to say, I do find that highly unlikely. I do think that Grandis knows what happened, and I do think she's covering for Candace. Hopefully I'm wrong, guys. Hopefully there wasn't some tragic accident that was covered up, but I don't have another theory that seems plausible to me. Of course, there are other theories that I'm considering. Was Summer sold? Was Summer trafficked? Was it something to do with a drug debt? Was Summer abducted? But I have to say, I don't believe Summer was abducted, whether it be by a stranger or by someone she knew. I've never bought the abduction theory, and I never will. And obviously we can't forget all of the abuse claims against Don. He has an extremely dodgy past. But let's face it, they all have extremely dodgy pasts that have involved abuse. Many different varying kinds of abuse. Such abuse that I don't wish to go into today, but I know that most of you will know what I'm talking about. In my opinion, if DonWells really was at work that day and he didn't come home to help Candace in some way cover up an accident that Summer had had, but I do believe if Don wasn't involved and this is something that Candace has done by herself, I don't think Candace could have kept it from Don for the past 6 months. If Candace did cover up an accidental death and something tragic that happened to Summer, I don't feel that Don would tell anybody. But I could be wrong. Maybe he would call her out. Maybe he would throw Candace under the bus. But obviously, guys, we don't know. None of us really know what happened to Summer. None of us really know who out of Don, Candace and Grandis is likely to be the most guilty or person responsible for Summer's disappearance. Obviously, we all have our thoughts and obviously we all have our theories. And I really appreciate that all of you that differ in opinion on what happened to Summer are willing to talk to other people in my comment section so that we can all discuss this case as adults, hopefully in a way that doesn't result in people arguing, and hopefully in a way that's productive so that maybe we could figure out what happened to SummerWells. So guys, who do you think out of the three Stooges is most likely to be responsible? Or do you think that none of them are involved and that we've all got it wrong? Either way, I'd love to know your thoughts and views, so please do share your thoughts with me and pop them comments below. It's also been an extremely heartbreaking 6 months, and I really hope that I'm not still talking about where is SummerWells in another 6 months. Fingers crossed. Bye for now.